Yeah, UFC 312 is at Sydney Olympic Park at Homebush this Sunday, and we have UFC World Champion Dricus du Plessis live in studio. Welcome to the show, brother.
Thank you so much for having me. Great to be here.
This is like your hometown, Sydney. You've spent a lot of time here. You've been here for a couple of weeks already. This is you really like this city we live in.
Yeah. I mean, we got in 2 weeks ago. I always like to be because South Africa. It's not the furthest place from anywhere, but it's always far wherever you go, and it's a 9-hour time difference. So it takes some getting used to for me. Make sure my sleep is good. I get a lot of OCD when I get closer to a fight, so I like to know where everything is at all times. So by the time fight week rolls around, I know exactly where my food is. I know where my gym is. I know exactly where everything is. I need to. I'm familiar with my territory.
Yeah. Now let's talk. We're in fight week now, right? It's nearly upon us this Sunday. It's you versus Strickland, the second time you've met. Last time you fought, it went the distance. I got a feeling you don't want it to go the distance this time, and you're going to finish him.
Yeah, I mean, in my whole career, I've only went the distance twice, and both have been incredible fights. I don't mind the distance if it's an entertaining fight. I've never had a boring fight in my life.
No, you have not. You
have
not.
I guess my style, I don't think I have the ability, because you need to be able to, go at a certain pace, and I only know one pace to be able to go boring. But, this time, that'll teach me to go to decision. Not that it was for a lack of trying, but this time, just a bit sharper. It's a year has passed since that fight, and I believe in terms of how I've grown as a fighter, the development, the sport grows so fast, and just to keep growing, getting better, day in, day out, and just that consistency has made me a fighter where right now, for this fight, I know I can finish the job.
And Dricus, we spoke about it's the second time you're fighting Sean Strickland. Last time he was the champion. Now this time you're the champion. What's your preparation like going to this? Because he's trying to get your belt from you.
Yeah. A lot of people always ask that. Do you have much bigger responsibility when you're a champion? Because, my whole gym, the team that I train with, all the guys coming up, the guys that train alongside me, my teammates that've been there for many years. Right now, look at me as the benchmark, as the world champion. And that's what everybody is aspiring to be, a world champion. So my work ethic, how I carry myself inside, outside the octagon, the things I do in the gym, outside of the gym, what time you show up for training, for example, something small. Are you there the earliest? Are you there the latest? Are you doing more than everybody else? Because if you're a world champion, you need to set that example of why am I the world champion and you're not. And if you are a young guy training with me in the professional team and the guys that train alongside me, I have to prove to them why I'm world champion and you're not there yet, and what it takes to be one. And not in an arrogant way at all, but in a motivating way, in a way of inspiring and giving somebody, all of those guys, my training partners, that hope of, listen, I've taken this guy down in training. I've caught this guy with some punches in training. And if I can do that, I'm at that level. I'm right there. This guy's the best of the best, so I can also do it. And the only thing maybe standing between me and that is maybe a mindset. Maybe it's that hour earlier, being there a bit earlier in preparation of training, because it's not just about the training. Being present and being effective in training is two very different things.
Let's talk about this fight. Now, you are on a 10-fight streak for the UFC at the moment, win streak, right?
I think in the UFC, it's 8 fights. I'm not 100% sure.
Well,
I think it's 8 fights in the UFC. But
You are. But you've dedicated your life to this.
Yeah.
But Alex Volkanovski, we had him on our our first show a couple of weeks ago, our debut show. I know him well. I grew up with him. But it's only really been probably the last 3-4 years he's earned the good money, the title shots, defending the title, the big pay packets. You're at a similar place now where you are earning really good money now to win the title, defend the title. But there's a lot of guys that don't. And a lot of guys, it's a brutal sport. You could die in that octagon. Do you think they get paid enough, generally UFC fighters, for what they do?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many arguments to be made. Everybody wants to get paid a lot.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a job on earth where somebody goes, oh, I get paid enough.
Tarsh Woodsy get paid.
Everybody goes, yeah, but even if you get paid a lot, you still think,
could get more.
I could get more. They don't appreciate me. I can get more. at the end of the day, this sport, especially in the beginning, I always tell people when they say, what would your advice be? My number one advice to the hard work advice, the sacrifice. I'm not even going to mention that because it speaks for itself.
Yes.
If you don't have that, don't even
Drive.
try. If you don't have that drive, you don't have that discipline, don't even try it. Any sports or anything in life for that matter. You need that before you start. If you don't have absolute passion and love for this game, you will not make it. Because believe me, I only signed I was a professional fighter for 9 years before signing with the UFC.
Wow.
And then you're not making enough money when your career ends. And now you have to understand, I've been a professional fighter since I was 19 years old.
Yeah.
I haven't developed anything else in my life in terms of what am I going to do after this. I put all my eggs in this basket. So I kind of made peace when I started this career. I never went, I'm going to be rich and famous. And I've never had that thought because it's probably not going to happen that way.
Yeah.
If you look at the percentage of people fighting and just making it to the UFC, it's not even 1% of pro fighters make it to the UFC. Then doing it in a way where you can look after yourself, a family, that becomes impossible in terms of just percentage and your chance to do that. So I made peace with that fact, and I still wanted to do nothing else with my life. If I was going to, have to have 2 jobs and fight, I was still going to do it because that's what it took to do what I love every day. And with this sport, if you don't, you either make it or you don't.
Yeah.
Like you said, if you don't go all the way, you have to know you're going to you're going to have a day job after this.
Yeah.
For sure. And do they get paid enough? If you win, you get paid.
Oh, yeah.
And that's how it is. I believe that's, it's this sport, just as tough as it is in there, to see people getting beat, the head trauma, CTE later in life, all these things makes this sport ridiculous and not good for you. It's not what it's about. This is not something that, it's something inside you. And for fighters, the way I don't care what happens after 40. I need to get to 40 and be the greatest fighter that's ever walked the earth. That's the only thing my mind thinks. Whether there's money or not, if they didn't pay for this, if this was for free, I would have probably still lived with my parents and been exactly right here where I am right now.
Wow.
In regards to, I work with 2 guys that are former NRL players. I believe you're a passionate rugby fan. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
What do you love about rugby?
Well, I played rugby. I wanted to pursue rugby as a career. I played competitive rugby, both my brothers as well, since I was 5 years old. Played under 19, played provincial teams. And then I had to make that decision. Am I going to play rugby
Or fight?
or fight? And right there, like I said, especially fighting locally in South Africa, what are you going to do for money? Because I got a scholarship, as they would call it, to go play rugby and study at the University of Pretoria. And I had to say, no, I went studying, but I had to go, Dad,
I want to fight.
I want to fight, so they're not going to pay for me anymore.
And,
And he was like, what are you going to do for money? And I said, fighting. But rugby is, I just have so much love for it. I don't think people always realize, like you guys know what it takes to be, my benchmark is the Springboks. If you look at that, I'm good friends with a lot of them, with Captain Sia, with Eben. All these guys, you see them, firstly, the work they put in, and for 80 minutes, in South Africa, rugby is massive. Like, there's a lot of pressure on those guys. If they lose, they are hated. Like, South Africa hates it.
They don't lose anymore, but.
No, they don't lose anymore. And I think it's because of fear. If the Springboks lose in South Africa, that Monday, it feels like the whole country is just walking with their heads down.
Yes.
And I mean, in school in South Africa, it's exactly the same thing. When I played rugby from before I was in primary school. If the first team of the school loses, that whole school, because under 14s, 15s, 16s, everybody can win. If the first team loses, that whole school, you lost the battle against the other schools.
It affects everyone.
So it's such a cultural thing for us, and I mean, it's physical. I just love everything about it, and I grew up with it. My dad, we are very passionate sports fans, and rugby
Oh, yeah.
has been the love of sports for us for many, many years.
All right, mate. We appreciate you coming in. We're going to have to let you go. You're an extremely busy man. Obviously, you got the fight to prepare for this week. Before I let you go, you got a lot of people that look up to you. Pretty much the whole of South Africa loves you. I spoke to Volko last week. You're a very impressive and likable person. I spoke to a young person who lives around the corner from me, and I said, "Do you want me to ask Dricus anything when I see him?" And he said, "How do you deal with tough times? Obviously, you're in the spotlight, so you lose. People can write it on social media. They all have their opinion. You got to deal with what happens in the octagon, but you also got to deal with everything outside it. Talking about you, you got engaged recently. Your life is in the spotlight, so there are ups and downs. But how do you deal with the dark times or the adversity that you face?"
Well, I always like to compare. That's why fighting for me is the purest form of sport. And I'm not taking away anything from any other sport. I'm just saying it's the oldest sport in the world. The first caveman was there. Another caveman was there. There was one nice cave, and they had to fight
over a mammoth.
for that
Yeah.
cave.
That's right.
I'm assuming there was some lady cavemen
Yeah.
or cave women
Yeah.
and other cavemen looking at this fight going, I can take that guy.
Yeah.
And people were cheering. People love fights. So I think it's rooted in our DNA as human. And that is part of life, and fighting works exactly like that. When you get in that fourth and fifth round, that's the funny thing about it. You don't think, that's why I always tell people with the money, fame, all that, that can never be your motivation. Because when you're sitting on that stool, you're tired, you're bleeding, your eyes are shut, you have a broken foot, broken hand maybe. You're sitting there and thinking, definitely, the money I'm going to get for this is great. That's definitely. You are willing to pay all that money to make this go away.
Yeah.
You don't care about that. And no amount of fame. You are so vulnerable in there. The only thing that can pull you through in that is determination, heart, and integrity that you have for yourself. That the hunger you have as a person to be the best that you can be, and achieving what is humanly possible, because we are blessed with it. Our minds are so strong. People underestimate that power. Our bodies are so strong. And when you get to that dark place, like you said, the dark places in life, the highs, the downs, the highs, those down places, those dark places, you need to get comfortable with that, because every time you get there, you are going to get there. You have to say, well, not to make it a cliche, hello darkness, my friend. Here we go. Here we go. I've been here many times before. Let's go and fight your way back to the light. I think that is why I love this sport, and that applies to life in general.
Well, thank you so much for your time. Bring it home on Sunday.
Oh,
you know
yeah,
Australia
absolutely.
love you. They're going to be cheering very loud for you. It's a huge fight. Prediction, how are you going to finish him?
I don't see this fight. We might see championship round 4 and 5, but I don't. There's just no way we're seeing the final bell. It's
We want
not
to see him
happening.
asleep.
Yeah, it's in method. I'm just prepared for a stand-up war. I'm prepared for the ground game, and I'm prepared to do whatever necessary in this fight. It's hard to say because we've been in there together. We've felt
Yeah.
the power, the speed, everything. That unfamiliarity is not as great, but now everybody's coming in with a plan of, we've seen what he does wrong. Let's try this.
Yeah.
We have our plans, they have their plans.
Yeah.
Let's see how that. So it might be the exact same fight, just better, or it might be a completely different fight. It all depends on the night. And unfortunately, you can prepare as you want in terms of game plan, but that goes out the window pretty quickly in any fight.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
it all happens this Sunday, UFC 312. Good luck, mate.
Thank you so much.
Du Plessis versus Strickland 2 this Sunday at Homebush.